Alright, so those of you who have been following since the start will know that I actually put a race pedal box in this car. If you've seen it along the way, you will have seen that this car was originally a left-hand drive US delivered car, and at some stage it was converted to right-hand drive, and I wasn't happy with the way they converted the pedals over. I really wasn't happy with the left to right conversion, and those who saw the earlier series will see how I improved the whole thing and redid it, because yeah, it wasn't good. And the pedal box that I've got in the car is all good. The brake side is mostly connected now, but the clutch and accelerator have nothing there. They're completely bare. So let's get the car down and have a look at what we're going to have to do to get a pedal connected. Alright, so I have my pedal kit out of the car. This is the one that I got before. I did do some reinforcing and stuff on it when I got it, because it looked a bit flimsier than what I would have liked. And I have sort of two things to move forward. I actually got a universal throttle cable kit that I need to use to set up for the cable clutch in the car. And also I got from Raceworks supplied me with this throttle pedal sensor. So this lines up with the ECU. It's got all the plugs and pins in it. It's perfect for setting up to a throttle pedal. The only hesitation I have with this is that this current pedal is connected to nothing. So there is no resistance on it. There is no nothing has been previously set up on it. So I have to completely fabricate that. And I actually went down to Benny because I was talking to him about it, and another BRZ part. Benny has a lot of BRZ parts kicking around his shop, and he set me up with this. It's a standard BRZ e-throttle pedal, which already has the springs on it and everything ready to go, so that this has the proper tension and all that sort of stuff. Now, I need to sit down and have a think and have a look and see whether it's going to be easier to somehow just use this pedal with the current sensor that is on the pedal. It's already set up. I just need to work out what wires go to what and wire this in and try and make this fit in the car. Or is it easier to sort of take this stuff off and just use the springs out of this onto the pedal and get the Raceworks sensor to work? So I'm going to have a think and get back to you. Alright, I pulled apart the BRZ pedal, and ultimately I don't think it's going to work. I think there's not enough room to sit this in here. I could modify the shape of the pedal somehow and actually get it to work in the direction that I want, but ultimately as I said, there's not a lot of space down in the footwell. With the 911, the pedals are slightly offset, at least on a right-hand drive car. They're slightly offset, and there's not a lot of space to work with. So I don't think the BRZ pedal is going to work, but at the very least, I should be able to get the springs to work. So taking that out of the equation, and after having a look at that, I've looked a bit further into the pedal set itself. What we have here's the Raceworks unit, and it works in this direction. So I can't really put it on the outside of the pedal. I need to put it on the inside of the pedal, and I'm going to stick it down inside the housing somewhere down here like this, which means I need to make up a bracket to hold it, and also something to connect to this arm of the pedal itself, so that when the pedal goes up and down, it goes through and does the movement of the sensor. So that's the first bit, and then the second bit is obviously I need to work out some way to mount the springs up out the back here so that when they're connected up and the pedal goes down, it's got some resistance of the springs, because obviously you don't want just a floppy pedal or a pedal that stays down when you press the pedal down. It needs to spring back up again. So I'm going to start doing some designing and do a little bit of some CAD templating and see what we can come up with to actually mount this stuff into place. Just one other thing to notice is obviously I have this balance bar for the brake master cylinders. It's obviously twin front and rear master cylinders, and I need to make sure that the end of this is clear of the sensor. When the sensor goes down into the bottom of this unit, I may need to just trim off the end of it slightly, just to make sure that it all sits in there and it fits the way it's supposed to fit. So all right, let's start templating. All right, so a little bit of change of plan here. I worked out that I should be able to set this little sensor up on either side, depending on the polarity of the signal and also how I calibrate the signal in the Link ECU software. So basically, I've decided it's going to be much easier to put it on the outside of this unit. Then I'm not getting in the way of the brake pedal. And I sort of carved out a little bit of a space here and just temporarily used a hose clamp on the arm of the accelerator pedal so that I can sort of line this all up. You can see there that it's doing the job nicely. And if I weld an arm onto the pedal that this sensor can go onto, it'll fit nicely. I'm going to make a new side plate for the whole side of the pedal box assembly, just so that I can mount this in the right spot, exactly where I want it, and have it all nice and solid and secure. And so I think that side of things is mostly sorted out now, which is really good. The next thing I need to tackle is the springs. So I need to somehow work out how to connect the springs up to the pedal. And as you can see in this pedal assembly here, it's got this arm and this tab that sticks further back at the back of the unit. There's actually a hole already drilled in the top here. Obviously, that's designed for some sort of spring setup originally. I'm going to use both of these springs like the BRZ had. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to weld a little crossbar onto this onto this pedal, or weld some sort of bracket onto the base of the pedal and connect these springs up. But at the moment, this side is getting in the way, so again, my new mount will need to be out further. And also, this top plate is too low for where the spring needs to go. The springs need to sit up a bit higher than that. So I'm going to have a bit of a play now and see what I can come up with. All right, so you can see here I actually cut off the back end of the pedal, and I've ground it up, and I'm actually making a new mount along this ledge here where I previously put my hose clamp. That's where the arm of the sensor is going to ride along that lip there. So that should do the job quite nicely. So let's weld that in now, and then I need to have a look at trying to make some sort of mount for the lower part of the springs. All right, so as you've seen, I've really been hacking away at this pedal box and it's really coming together. So I welded this extra tab onto the arm of the pedal itself. That's where this arm of the Raceworks throttle position sensor is going to sit and roll on. So that is that part done, and that's looking good. And then on the bottom, I actually cut off the spring perch off of the BRZ throttle, and I've welded that onto this throttle. So that's the lower mount for the spring. So the spring will mount onto there, and we are a lot of the way there. So my next job is to work out how to make the top spring perch for the throttle pedal. So work out where it needs to sit, and it needs to be a fair bit higher than where this current level is. So I'm going to have to cut this up and build some sort of framework up above here to make it all work the way I want it to. All right, that was a bit of backwards and forwards, trying to work out exactly how I'm going to set my pedal up. Now, I've been going off of Archie, my 996 911, to work out roughly the distance back the accelerator pedal. The accelerator pedal at rest usually sits a little bit deeper than the brake does, and I measured off of Archie to sort of get the right level, to get the right foot spacing, because I'm quite happy with how the pedals are set out in that car. So what I did is I sort of worked out that I want it about roughly about 50 mil deeper on the accelerator than the brake at rest. That's what I'm doing, and to do that I worked out the extra height I need for the factory spring mount that I cut off of the BRZ pedal. I need to set it up about 25 mil higher than the current top plate here. So what I did is I made up a little template that I've sort of scored and folded up that will mount this factory thing in here. Now, I could have made a whole new one for the spring mounts, but this one's already here. It's already done. It's got sort of the nice little loops and stuff on it, so I know it works, and it's easy enough to just make this up and weld it up. I've got some good size steel plate here that I'm going to use. So I've marked out my template onto this now. I'm going to cut it out, fold it up, and then I should be able to weld it onto here. And we should have springs mounted where they're supposed to be. All right, that is all set up nicely. So now the accelerator pedal works the way it's supposed to. There's springs on it, but there's still a couple of things I need to add. So obviously I still need to do the mount for the throttle position sensor, or the pedal position sensor. And I'm going to make an entire new plate to cover this entire end to mount that sensor onto, because it's just going to give me more structure there and something a bit more solid to hold on to it. And it also will go through and reinforce up this end of the whole pedal set. The other thing that I need to incorporate into that is, at the moment, there's nothing stopping the pedal coming back. I need a stop, and probably I'm going to make it adjustable, and I'm going to have to make up some sort of arm, and I'm thinking that I'm going to line it up with this tab that I welded on the pedal here, that I can actually have a nut and a bolt that I could put through, and that will could be an adjustable stopper on the for the pedal itself. So that's the way I'm going to set it up. So now it's a matter of just doing a bit of folding and working out exactly how I'm going to make this thing. I'll do another cardboard template and see what we can come up with. All right, that was a lot of playing around, and basically what I've done now, so the pedal is done, the spring perches are done as you saw previously, and then what I've gone through now is I've made up this panel. So it was a fair bit of sort of adjusting and welding and making this sort of weird shaped looking panel, but everything has a function on this. So basically this is going to sit on the end, and actually I've just remembered I've got to trim off this this lower corner just so that it matches up with the rest of the pedal box as it is. But there's a hole big enough on the end for a socket to be able to take on and off the pedal. It actually has the mount here. This is where my position sensor goes, and that's got a couple of captive nuts in there all ready to go in a tiny M3 size it needs, so that will sit on there quite nicely. And then on the inside I've actually got this mount here. There's another captive nut in here, and what that's for is that's a stopper for the pedal, so the pedal can't come back any further. The pedal has a stopper at the bottom already to stop it from going too far past the base, but it needed a stopper on the back, so I've got a captive nut in there. I'm just going to put a nut and bolt into it and lock it down, and there's your adjustable stop for the top of the pedal. So it's all pretty much ready to go now. I'm going to give a little bit of weld through primer around the edges, and then give a good coat of black into the bits that I can get to now, just to tidy it all up and get it ready to go, hopefully away from where the paint is going to bubble and melt. And then we can weld it all up, and hopefully it looks like a nice, neat, finished pedal box. That's the plan anyway. All right, and here is my finished accelerator pedal. So I've got the sensor here mounted on the side. I can get to my bolt for my to unbolting the actual pivot point of the pedal. The sensor is mounted there, ready to go and be wired up. The bolt, the adjusting bolt, that bolt there actually is the stopper for the pedal, and that is working properly. And as you can see, the throttle position sensor is working perfectly. So that is all lined up. There was a lot of messing around, but because I am a genius, I was just welding onto the bench, and I didn't notice in the mess of stuff that was on here. I actually welded, obviously it was sitting on the spring, and it welded the end off of it. So one of the springs is dead, but it was very firm anyway. This may be too light now, but I can just track down another spring if I need to. That is the least of my problems, but at the moment that works fine with one spring. There's no problems there. There's a reasonable amount of resistance on that pedal, so that is going to do the job. Well, I'm quite happy with that result. That was a good day's work getting that all working, and now I actually have a pedal box that's going to do the job, and I can actually use the accelerator in the car. Next week I'm going to have to do the clutch. I know you guys are dying for me to start the car, but I just want to get this, at least the pedals set up, so when I put it in the car, I'm not pulling it out again to do the clutch later. I can do it all now while it's out of the car. And then I've also got to wire this up, obviously, to get it to work with the ECU. So, all right, if you enjoyed the videos, please actually tick that like button and subscribe if you haven't, because it does make a difference. And also, join us on Patron if you want to see these videos a day before everyone else. And make sure you compare prices at Push Parts by Jeff first. All right, guys, see you next week.